Today, I'll show you how to build this game of chess in less than 10 minutes. You can literally move all the pieces and play an actual game with it, and it follows all the logic of chess. Or if you want, you can design your own chessboard and put it up on your website. And we will do all of this with zero coding and just with prompts. So let's get started. So first we'll go to V0 and we will ask to create a chessboard game, and we will style it a bit. So we'll say use color this for the black and use this for the white. And let's even try to incorporate a bit of style, and we can say that make the pieces in the style of pixel art. I think we have a chessboard and you can even move things around. There is some logic already here. For example, if you move one coin to the other, the previous coin disappears. I think that logic is here. So we can implement the rest of the functionality within Cursor. If you wanted to design your own chess pieces, you see that all these pieces, they're all SVGs. So you could literally design your own piece in Figma or download an SVG from some place and just paste your SVG here and you will have it working in Cursor. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. To add the remaining functionality to this chessboard, I'm going to click here and say add to code base, and I will copy this command and I will go into my terminal and I will just create a new Next.js project. So if you open Cursor, you can see the typical file structure for a Next.js application. We can open a terminal within Cursor and run this program, and we can just say npm run dev, and that should start the project in a local server. And you can see in my case, it's localhost 3001. And we can place this side by side right now. First thing we're going to do is we get that command from our V0 that we can go and paste it inside our project. You can go and paste this command that we copied from V0 and just hit enter. And you just say yes to all the other options that it asks. Okay, so now that's installed. You can see that in the source directory, in components, it created a chessboard over here, which is basically the code that we generated in V0. So to bring this chessboard into your homepage, you need to change the page.tsx. So that's where you're going to see what is displayed over here. So we can do that by opening our chat, and within chat, we can say import the chessboard and display it here. Remove everything else on the home page and position the chessboard in the absolute center. Remember to use Claude because Claude seems to be much better at programming than ChatGPT. And once you accept it, it does everything you need. Save it, go back here, refresh, and then you have your chessboard. And as you can see, the functionality is still intact and you can pretty much play without any governing logic. Now, again, to add the logic for it, it's very simple. The only thing you need to know is which library that we are going to use to add this logic. And in this case, the library that we will be using is called chess.js. It's a very popular library and it's written in TypeScript. It was made in 2022 and it's still pretty up to date. There are lots of contributors on this library. You can see from the GitHub profile that it is highly maintained and it's free. So we are going to use this one and integrate into our application, but we don't need to know exactly how this works or how we're going to integrate it. We just need to know which library that we need. So in this case, chess.js. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to go back into my Cursor and I will create a folder called prompts. And within prompts, I will create a new file and say logic.md. And here we will define the logic that we are going to integrate. We will say and replace the logic chess.js and we will save it. So that's pretty much all we need to say at this point. But one thing you need to know is we need to do this inside the chessboard component because this is where the main code lives. So we just say add logic and hit on enter. And it says that, yes, we need to install chess.js. So let's just copy this command, go into our terminal and let's paste this command. And then it should install the chess.js library. There are some errors though. Let's go and fix that. And you can just go here and hover on this part, you just copy that part and go back into Composer and just paste it. One thing that I might have done before is to just go say AI fix in chat, but I realized going back to the Composer and pasting it there is actually better than doing AI fix in chat, because Composer has some history of how you worked with it right now. So that history is missing in chat, and sometimes the solution chats give could be very different from what the Composer gives. So this is one of the recent learning for me. So yeah, just copy the issue and just paste it inside Composer in the same chat that you're doing. As you see right now, there are no errors. So we can just accept everything, and let's save it and refresh. And you can see that it works. So as you can see right now, I'm not able to move any of the other pieces. Now I moved white, and now I can only move black. And now all the functionality already works. So let's enable the pieces to be draggable right now, so we don't have to click on two places each time. So it would be nice to just drag this piece and drop it where we want to. So we can do that by again going and creating a new prompt, and we will call it move piece.md. And within this, we can say enable drag and drop for the pieces. And when a piece is dragged, it should be highlighted in blue. When a piece is dropped, it should be placed on the board. The square behind the piece should not be. I'm writing the last sentence because the previous time I did it, it made the square behind the piece also draggable. It may not happen every single time. For some of you, it might just figure out that only the piece needs to be dragged, but I'm going to specify it anyway. So I'm going to go back into chessboard, and once I'm here, I can open a new Composer because it's a new functionality altogether. And within Composer, what we can do is just go tag number 2, which is to move pieces, and we can hit enter. So we'll accept all the changes. Seems like there are no errors. Let's save it and let's go refresh, and seems like the drag functionality works, but not exactly, because you can see this weird interaction because it's not utilizing the actual drag functionality. It is inferring where we want to move and kind of do this, but I want the actual drag to be visible. So for that, again, we are going to use a library, and the library for drag functionality that we will use is called React-D. So if you go to its GitHub page, it's basically a library for dragging and dropping. So what we can do is go back to where we executed our second prompt, and we just go back to checkout. And once you do that, you hit on save. And if you refresh, it goes back to before we implemented the drag functionality. So you can still click and move pieces, but you cannot drag them. And we can go back into our logic, into our prompt, and we can just specify it within this file, and we can say use React DND for drag and drop. So once you save that, I'm going to open a new Composer, and again open chessboard, and just tag on 2, and it goes and implements all the necessary functionality needed. Okay, I can go and install these packages in my terminal, and once I have the React drag and drop in my library, I can accept all the changes. As you see, there are some issues, and these are mostly just TypeScript issues. Well, because this is going in a loop right now, there's a fix for it. We just say as any. This is the easiest fix for TypeScript errors. This is again something that I figured after knowing TypeScript, but in general, it's not recommended to say any. But in this case, we are okay to do it because we assume the code is right. But sometimes it goes into these loops. Of course, AI is not perfect, but we can work with these issues for now. And now if I go and refresh on the page, as you can see, the drag and drop functionality works. But there seems to be an interference with the chess game logic. So let's go and fix that. And also the square behind the piece are also moving. So let's fix that. So we will keep the chat history intact, and we can go back to Claude and we can say the chess game logic seems to not work anymore. Retain the logic from chess.js, and then we will fix the square behind the piece. Now the chess logic is working, and you can drag and drop as well. Okay, so now what we can do is take care of this minor detail where the square behind the piece also moves. So as I mentioned earlier, this thing happened, so that's why I even mentioned it behind. So sometimes it doesn't get it because the way it's defined here, it understands that the square is actually a part of the piece. So we can go back into a chess component, but if you see, even though the square moves, there is a square behind it as well. So we can go back into chessboard and say, let's open a new cursor chat and let's make sure we have chessboard selected, and we can say when I move a piece, the square behind it also moves. Make sure only the piece is draggable. We are not going to use ChatGPT for now. We are going to use 4.0, or so we are going to use Sonnet. And I also realized the way Sonnet responds is a lot more polite than the way OpenAI responds. It's kind of funny. And it repeats the same issues over and over again. So I'm just going to say as any and like get rid of this. You might be using this as any to address the TypeScript issues quite often. So often that you'll know this is how you do it. Okay, now the drag functionality works properly. So you can move all the chess pieces and you can pretty much play the game. And now for the final part, we'll make it look a little better. So we will add a background to this. So we can create a new folder and we can call it public. Remember that you need to create this folder in the root of the application, not inside the source directory. And within this folder, we can bring our gradient, and I will just put it inside the public folder. So we created this gradient and we can go into our page.tsx, and we know that the chessboard component is displayed over here, and there's nothing else going here. So we don't need to ask chat anything. So we can go and create a new composer, and we can say add a background image to the page, and then I will use the 24 gradient image. And I can see that now there's an image on the background, but again, the image is not getting loaded. And I think I know the issue. The file name is being tagged with @ but the file name doesn't have an @ symbol here. So if you just remove this @ symbol, I think the issue should be resolved. Yeah, so it's probably the way I wrote it incorrectly. So when it read this, it took the @ symbol as well. So that's the issue. Yeah, it's good to also like know a little bit on what's happening for you to debug these kind of issues. So what you could always do is just go check out, go back and try it again, and this time it might work. Or if you don't do that, you can also select a different model and try again, and then it might work. But again, it's just helpful to know a little ways to debug. That is definitely a superpower when it comes to building with AI. Okay, last thing, I'm going to remove this white background behind the chessboard. So I can go and say that remove, let me open this in a new composer chat, and I will have this selected because I know this is where the white background is coming from. And I can go just say remove the white background behind the chessboard so I can see the gradient clearly. I shouldn't have to say the last thing, but I will say it anyway. And then I will also tag page.tsx so it understands that I have a gradient behind, and that's what I'm trying to do. I think it understands that I want the gradient to be visible, and that's what I'm trying to say, because I don't want it to misinterpret what I'm saying by just like removing the white pieces behind the chessboard, for example. So let's see what changes it did. If I go here, you can see that I think this is the kind of change that we are expecting. Let's accept it. Yeah, there you go. I think this is pretty much the end of our video. So this is an actually fully working chess. We could do a lot more by actually integrating with a backend so that this game you can actually share a link with your friends, and when you play a move, your friends can actually play the next one, and you can turn it into a real game of chess that you can have on your website. But that's for another video. So I hope you learned something new today, and I will see you in the next one.